joining us, Heather. I'm so excited for today. And I'm sure all of our students are excited as well, because it's not every day that we discover we have a fashion designer in Northeast Iowa that we can talk to live. So thank you so much, Heather. So the students do, they have some questions to fill out. And they are welcome to put questions in the chat as well. I bet they will have a lot, so we'll get to as many as we can, but we need to make sure we cover these. But the first thing I want to do is just have you introduce yourself, give you a brief career history, and tell us a little bit about what you do now.
Yay! Well, hello everybody. My name is Heather Brown. I grew up in Oelwein, Iowa, so I was your neighbor back in the day. And I've always been interested in fashion design. And I ended up going to an art school in California called Otis College of Art and Design. And from there, I was hired. So I graduated with a Bachelor of Fine Arts degree in fashion design. So in high school, I took tons of art classes and just really was interested in the arts and fashion, and kind of found that school. Now there's so many more schools that offer fashion design programs, but back in the day when I went to school, there wasn't so many. So I went to California to an art school, graduated with a degree in fashion design, and was hired by Abercrombie and Fitch, and Hollister is a part of that company. So my first job was assistant designer for Hollister, doing swimwear and sweaters. So that was in Columbus, Ohio. I was there for 6 years. During that time, I worked hard, asked always like, what do my bosses need next? Took initiative and tried to be proactive. And I grew within the company as an assistant designer, promoted to an associate designer, then designer level, then senior designer, and then design director. So that's each step I took being promoted. I got more responsibility, more team members underneath me, and I traveled all over the country, and all internationally as well, like Hong Kong to factories and tons of awesome like experiences. And then after 6 years being there, I ended up moving back to California and designing for PacSun, where I was in charge of all of the women's clothing, swimwear, sweaters, dresses, every kind of category. After a couple of years there, I took another job for Urban Outfitters in Philadelphia, and I was there for a few years leading the team there. And then I really missed California, so I went back to LA designing for PacSun again for another 5 years. All of this led to me where I am now, which is owning my own swimwear company. So that has always been my dream. I love swimwear. I love beaches. And I mean, I know we're in Iowa right now where it's freezing, but you just have to get, mentally in the tropical spirit, when you're here during the winter. So I've always loved swim. After being back at PacSun, I kind of started thinking how I wanted to start my own company. And so again, really worked hard at paying off student loans and saving money. And then I launched my swimwear brand 3 years ago. I moved back to Iowa and kind of decided to root my brand here since I am from Iowa. And Iowa has actually been a great place to start a company. All of these support that you get from the business side of things that really helps, a designer out during this. And, you guys, there's so many opportunities actually in Iowa, business wise, and all the support I've gotten from the community has been amazing. So rooted it here, incorporated in Iowa, and I had been traveling back and forth between Iowa and Indonesia, working on making swimwear. So the brand started Night Dive Swim, and I'm still working on that now, and that's where we're at. Not very brief introduction, but there a little bit of tidbit about me.
You hit so many things in the questions already, so right? I'm not sure where to go next. But why don't you prepared? You sent us in advance some slides. Yes. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that while you're incorporating what you do like about what you do, and maybe if there's some things you don't like.
Yes. Okay, perfect. So as a fashion designer, you learn a lot of things, and there's a lot of things to work on. So this right here is kind of showing you guys, this is sketching. So sketching is like the first base where you start. So the little kind of figure you see underneath the tracing paper is called a croquis. And a croquis is just kind of a body form that you can then draw on top of to get the proportions right of the design you're thinking. And so what I'm sketching in this photo are called flats. So this is initial ideas. This is a great way to kind of like get out ideas that you have and figure out how do they work from front to back. And this is kind of where, your ideas start. So imagine if you want to try this at home, imagine like a piece of clothing laying flat on the ground, and that's kind of what it should look like. So this is just a part of fashion design that's really important. And this is kind of where you start the ideas of how you communicate how to make your garments to a factory. So the next photo is kind of a finished flat. So this is kind of sketching, and then this is a finished flat. So you see how I've put it in Adobe Illustrator. So if you guys are interested in, fashion design or anything kind of to do with the design world, Adobe Illustrator is a great kind of asset if you can learn that program. The sooner the better. So you can see you have a front and the back, and this is a flat that's finished. You have stitching details, adjustable rings and sliders. So these are all details. If you start looking at clothing that you own, you can really see all the little tiny things that you probably never noticed before and how they construct the garment. So this is just an example of, it's called the Mahana top that I sell on my website currently. So this is a finished flat, and this is what we would send to a factory and communicate how wide do you want the straps? Do you want them to be a quarter of an inch wide? Is it a contrasting color? So this is really, again, like a communication and how you present things. From here, you'll go to a line sheet. So, sorry, before the line sheet. This is where this is one of my favorite parts, is designing the color palette and the print direction for a season. So with fashion design, there's so many elements. But the one part, you have to tie a whole collection together or a whole brand. So when I was designing for PacSun, we came up with color palette and print direction for the whole women's design area. So everything can mix and match together, because not every category, and when I say category, I mean sweaters team or the woven tops team or the dresses team. Everybody, you can't just go and do your own thing. You have to work together as a team and see how your top, make sure you match to a short or a bottom, and what are you going to wear for the head to toe look. So you all stick to a same palette, so you have a direction for the season, and it's a cohesive store. So you can see here, this is actually last season's color palette, and naming the colors is also a really fun thing to do. And then the color and print direction. So the print at the bottom, in the design world, that is a whole different team. So that's the graphics and artwork team, or print and pattern team. So these are people, like, I love designing the apparel, the silhouette, the actual final garment. And these, my friends that worked on these, they love doing artwork and pattern or a graphic that goes on your shirt. So they're artists in a different way than I am. So, but it's fun because then you work together and you make a final product. So these are just some print examples that I used last season. Next is line sheet. So a line sheet, this is where you take all of your designs that you've sketched, then you've put them into Illustrator, and in Illustrator, you clean them up a little bit and added the stitch details, and then you put them all together on a line sheet. And a line sheet is just an easy way to say, kind of like, keep all the things you're working on together, or your final collection is all kind of in one place. This is also a great tool so you can see mix and matching opportunities, make sure you have every color that you wanted. So, if I lay out a line sheet and I realize, oh no, I don't have enough purple tops to match back to all the purple bottoms that I have, or, just things like that, or even silhouette variety. So that's something we pay attention to, where if you have too many things that look the same, the customer is probably going to choose just one of those. So you want to offer variations of different things and things that speak to different customers. You can go to page 2. And the line sheet too. So this is like one piece, and then here's another slide of the line sheet. So you can see this top left, that's the Mahana top, and that's actually what I ended up going forward with into production. Um, and we'll get to how that kind of translates to the website. So again, just showing you how you start with a sketch, you move into a flats, then you have the line sheet where you can see it all together. So hopefully that kind of explains what a line sheet is. It's kind of like a cheat sheet. And then here you can see it. It is on the website. They have the photos of the model and the final product on the right. You have the price, the sizes, everything on the final kind of page. So this is what customers see. But you guys got to see kind of how it all starts with a sketch and a flat, and then you get to the final product here. So that as a fashion designer, if you're working for a big corporate company, like I did for many years, you get to see pieces of that process, and you work with a lot of teammates to make it happen. And currently, since I'm running my own business, thank goodness I learned from all my friends working together all those years. So then I kind of have become a woman of all trades, kind of learning everything and doing it now as a one-woman show running the business. So, but what's awesome is, from working so long in the industry, you make friends with people, you build relationships. Because of all those relationships I've had throughout all those years of working at those different companies, there's been a lot of things that have happened for me, which are awesome and helpful when starting my own business. So for example, someone that he was like my head boss when I started at Abercrombie. Now this was a long time ago, and I was an assistant. I had just graduated from college, and I looked up to his name's Chad Kessler. He was kind of like this, like an SVP, secondhand man to the CEO at Abercrombie. I worked for him. I worked hard. And he was on the merchandising side, which I can get to that as well. It's another area of fashion design. So I was on the design side, he was on the merchandising side, but just really respected him. And after working together for so many years, he went a separate way. I went to PacSun, but we, maintained contact all those years. As I started my own company, we're friends on Instagram. He saw that I launched my own business, and he reached out to me and asked, "Hey, Heather, you know what? Aerie, maybe you got Aerie and American Eagle." He happens to be the president of American Eagle now. He's like, "Oh, hey, Aerie and Night Dive Swim could be an awesome collaboration. Come to New York, show your product. Let's see if we can make something happen." Because of that relationship that I had developed, and from my work ethic that he saw, he invited me to come to New York. I showed my collection, and then they've bought from me for 2 years now. I've been able to sell my own brand to Aerie to sell on their website. So it just shows you, if you create great relationships and you have a great work ethic, gosh, that's a tongue twister, it's good to build these bridges and, keep these relationships like in a really great spot. So wherever you work, the industry is so small, even though it's huge out there, but it actually is small. And a lot of these, work for you in the future, and just being a good hard worker and, working the talent part, that's kind of comes naturally for some people, but then there's some things that you have to work hard at. And the harder workers actually, in the end pay off than people who are talented and don't work as hard. So just a little tidbit on that. Oh, I think you had asked another thing, but I didn't answer it too.
I can't seem to unmute. I'm struggling
Oh,
here. Okay, got it. So there's a huge process involved, and thank you
yeah,
for sharing that with us.
yeah,
So I hope all of our students caught that you actually answered many components of the questions on our sheet. So maybe not being as direct as we have in the past. So you're going to have to really listen.
yeah.
Is there anything in that whole process you told us about that you don't particularly like to do or find especially challenging?
Yes. So I will say for me, for the design portion, working for the bigger companies, I'll give you two things. So when I worked for other companies, and then for my own company. So we'll give two options. So when I worked for other people, and as a designer, you present your ideas, you have to go through a process of getting things approved and making sure that your counterparts, the buyers or the merchandisers, whichever company you work for, kind of the terminology changes. So these are the people that are actually buying your design and putting it in the store, for the company you're working at. So you kind of have to, sell them your idea. You're almost like a salesperson sometimes, where you're like, this is amazing, believe in this, this color is the best new color. And as a designer, you learn how to pick up on trends, and that's a whole other thing we can talk about, if we have time. But so the challenge with presenting to buyers or merchandisers and getting them to buy your idea, that was the part that was challenging, where if you have a counterpart that is maybe not willing to take risks on a new design, or something that you really love that you've designed, which as a designer, you need to learn to design for your target customer, not for yourself, which, a target customer is basically what your brand or what your company, who they're trying to sell to. So it's not, you shouldn't be designing personally, you should be designing for your target customer. But, sometimes there's some things that you just like love, and your buyer or counterpart won't take a chance on them. That was the only frustrating thing, where you're like, like, I'm designing all these amazing things, buy this one and put it in the store and give it a chance. So when you don't have control of that, that can be frustrating. But again, you have to grow, you have to have a pretty thick skin in the fashion industry, because you can't take things personally. And same with any kind of artistic endeavor. It's all subjective, and there's a lot of opinions on different things. So thick skin is important. As owning my own business, I would say the one part that I like least is dealing with all of the Excel charts. So I don't know if you guys know anything about Excel, but it is, as a designer, I love, as you saw, like my line sheets, Adobe Illustrator, working with color and print and like pretty things. And then as owning my own business, I have to deal with charts that list the numbers and the pricing and the quantity of swimsuits I'm buying from my factory, because that's the way you communicate with your factory. So I've learned a lot, and that's the business side of it. So the fashion design world is so huge. There's a business side of it. There's the design side. There's print and pattern. There's the photo side, photography, styling, marketing, social media. There's so much in like the one fashion design world. So tons of opportunities if anybody's interested at all. There's so much you can work on. So the one thing for me are those Excel spreadsheets.
So I just heard a whole bunch of classes that students who are interested in this field should probably consider taking in high school: business, art, marketing, maybe some computer aided design. Even
Yes,
if the design isn't clothing, it would probably be useful. I'm guessing that they do some
absolutely.
sort of computer aided design
Yes.
type of work. Remind us one more time. We had a question, Heather, because
Yes.
some people logged in a little bit. What college you
Oh, yes.
attended?
I went to Otis College of Art and Design. It's in Los Angeles. Um, and I'll say, like, I loved it. It was really hard work. We didn't get spring breaks there, but it was amazing. I learned so much. However, what's amazing is now in Iowa, the Iowa State University, they have an amazing program. It wasn't like that back when I was looking for colleges. I'm old. So, but I know my little sister actually goes to ISU, and I'm actually going to be a guest judge for the fashion show that they're coming up with this year. So they have a great program. I wish it was around back when I was, looking for colleges. So ISU is great. Otis College of Art and Design was amazing. A couple other schools that usually pop up, just in case you guys want to check them out. Parsons is a school in New York. SCAD, it's Savannah College of Art and Design. That's in Georgia. Columbus College of Art and Design in Ohio is another great one. Those are just some. I'm just trying to think of people that I've hired to work at all those companies. A lot of people come from those colleges. So lots of great opportunities out there, and even one in Iowa that is really amazing as well. Mm,
Fantastic. Well, we do have some additional questions, but we
yeah.
are at 9:21.
Yes.
So, maybe in the second session, we can hit some of those questions. I will take
Yeah.
some of them, if we can get to them, but I think what you provided was great information. Thank you so
Yay.
much. Who would have thought we'd be talking about swimwear in Iowa in February?
I know, right?
Although it does feel like a heat wave out there now. So thank you so much, Heather. We appreciate
Thank
your time and
you.
expertise. There's so much to what you do with the entrepreneurship and the fashion design and
Yeah.
all the careers involved. So we really appreciate your time and everyone that tuned in. And everyone have a great Friday.
Thank you.